Hey, welcome back to another edition of the Friday Show. I'm Ray Paulick. It's presented to you by Woodbine. Saturday at Woodbine, there's three two-year-old stakes, including the Coronation Futurity on Sunday. It's the Grade 3 Ontario Derby. Pleased to be joined by bloodstock editor Joe Nevills and a special guest from Japan, Kate Hunter, who's the Breeders' Cup field representative for Japan, and she's the one that's been coordinating, bringing this big contingent of Japanese horses over. There were 8 pre-entered, but we're down to 7 with the news that Jasper Krone will not be making the trip over. Kate, welcome to the Friday Show.
Thank you for having me while I'm in my car.
Well, I know you're busy. You're actually, I think, sitting at an airport right now, aren't you? Waiting for somebody?
Yeah, the Mori horses arrive tomorrow morning. So I'm picking up the grooms at the airport.
Oh, wow.
Well, I wanted to ask you, what is the biggest challenge for horses coming from Japan, where the rate, the tracks are huge. They're not 1 mile ovals like we have here. That you've got to factor in the travel and all that. And is this going to be the year that a Japanese horse breaks through and wins a Breeders' Cup race, do you think?
Well, if you consider that horse racing is a numbers game, we've got the numbers this year, so I hope it goes in our favor. I think our turf horses are really strong this year. I think Vindegaard seems to blossom when he's abroad, and Loves Only You seems to also have kind of refound her former G1 form.
So we've got. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just like so.
Oh, I was like from the difficulty
though?
Perspective. Well, the hardest part with recruiting for the Breeders' Cup is timing. Like the Euros are done for the year, so coming to the Breeders' Cup, getting in or not getting in, it's the end of everything. So it doesn't matter if they don't get in, and if they get in, it's great. Like what Order of Australia last year was an AE. It was no big deal if he didn't get in, but he got in and then he won. So for the Japanese though, their fall season's just starting. They've got the Tenno show coming this weekend. They've got the Japan Cup. They've got all of these big Group 1 races, bam, 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 one after the other. So pulling them away from that intense prize money is an effort.
In terms of logistics for 7 horses coming over, how many humans does that involve coming over from Japan to take care of the horses and to watch them run and so forth?
Well, typically there would be more, but with the virus restrictions back in Japan, a mandatory 2-week quarantine, there's a lot less people this year. So basically it's 1 groom per horse. Yahagi Stables was able to bring over a couple other people that don't work for his stable, so they could come over because, you miss 2 weeks when you go home and you've got a full barn of horses that need to be taken care of. So the logistics have been quite difficult with the people. As for the horses, the flights kept getting canceled. We were going to fly in on the 27th, then it was the 25th, then maybe the 23rd, then back to the 27th, then maybe the 25th again. And then it was either the 22nd or the 29th. And then my shipment got split.
So despite all of those logistical issues, this is the biggest contingency by far from Japan. Is it because of the proximity being in California, or is this just happen to come up strong this year?
Well, a lot of these horses I've traveled with all throughout the year. Jasper Prince and Pinshan I was at the Breeders' Cup with last year. Matera Sky came in 2019, and Vindegaard and Loves Only You I was in Dubai with. So I managed the quarantine in Dubai this year, and some of these horses were also in Saudi Arabia, where I managed the quarantine there. So I've been able to kind of build a rapport with these guys. Like, hey, you like being abroad, you're having fun, come to the Breeders' Cup. And so I've been able to kind of keep the ball rolling all year. And so it's for people that weren't afraid to travel during the virus, I was able to kind of pinch from there this year. But I think also being in California in particular, it's almost, you don't need a charter plane because it's a one stop. You leave Tokyo and you arrive in Los Angeles. So be it Santa Anita or Del Mar.
So shipping to California is a pretty straight shot, but I know that shipping to Kentucky, you have to go through Chicago probably. Is there a stop before you get to Chicago and then you ship to Kentucky, or it just seems like it's more steps along the road?
Yeah, before the virus, it basically went Tokyo, Anchorage, Chicago, and then we'd quarantine in Chicago, and then we'd van down, or if someone was willing to pay a little extra, you could fly down. But the vanning isn't, the Japanese van across their country all the time to race, like every weekend, so it's not a big deal for them. But for now, because of the virus, they've added Dallas before Chicago. So that adds like another 4 to 6 hours to the flight. And that is not optimal. And I mean, most of the horses travel just fine, but you want it as short as possible. Of course. And if you have to quarantine a place where then you have to basically spend a full day traveling and miss even more training, it all just kind of, it's a gap in being able to train. That's the biggest issue.
So where are the horses? They're going straight to Del Mar, or is there a quarantine first?
Our first shipment was very lucky. They went straight to Del Mar, did their isolation, and have been training since clearing isolation. Maury's horses are kind of unlucky because there weren't enough quarantine barns. So they have to go to Jet Pets here at LAX. So when they arrive early tomorrow morning, we'll meet them at the cargo bay, take them over to Jet Pets, where they will stay for 42 hours. And then hopefully we'll be able to get them down to Del Mar before the first set of training stops. Because I want to make sure they get both sets an opportunity to train tomorrow, or train on the 31st.
Now, if I recall for last year's Breeders' Cup, Ping Zhang, who is in the dirt mile or going for the dirt mile this year, he came out here and did not draw in, correct?
Correct.
Was there any kind of additional arm twisting to get the owner to come back after that? It seems like after, all those plane stops and everything, that'd be an awful lot of rigmarole to not run in the race. Or was he kind of willing to make that chance again?
Oh, he was okay. I mean, one of the nice things that the Breeders' Cup does for everybody is, like, if you enter and you don't, and intending to run, that you still get the travel subsidy.
Oh,
so cool. I mean, that's an amazing thing that they do for everybody. So if you're planning on coming and planning on trying to race, they give you money. So like the owner was not put out at all. And he was pretty pleased with the setup and everything. So he was more than happy to get back in. The horse has a much better rating this year. He went on to win, I think, 2 or 3 times since that, and he looks really good. So I mean, he was pretty keen to come back, especially because it's an easier trip. And last year was kind of special. I'd warned him. I was worried because since you missed like half the season in the United States because of the virus, like there's no racing. I was kind of figured a lot of horses would be fresh and a lot of horses would be in the Breeders' Cup, so it'd be even harder to get in. And that proved to be the case. I think Jasper just got in last year. So this year is a more normal year where the dirt races are underpopulated.
You mentioned Mori's horses coming in. He's the first Japanese trainer to really embrace international racing. I think he was the first to win a Group 1 outside of Japan back in the mid '90s. I think. What drives him to seek out all these? Because he's got several of the horses coming to the Breeders' Cup this year. What drives him for that?
Well, for him, he seems to really he enjoys traveling. He enjoys the new experiences. And as great as the Japanese system is, he enjoys the freedom that traveling abroad allows you to pick racing times and places like that. I think a lot of trainers are kind of using him almost as like a guy. Like he's the pioneer. He goes out and does stuff. And even if he's not winning necessarily, but if he's going back and forth successfully to this extent, the horses are fine, the trip went well and smooth, people really take a page from his book. And I think I would honestly give Mori Sensei more credit to recruiting the horses this year than myself, because he's come for the past 2 years and proved to other trainers and owners that it's an experience worth having.
And going further on the topic of international travel, the Japanese contingent has done very well on Dubai World Cup card. Won one a few years ago. Usually has a really strong group to go, but as far as I know, they're still seeking that first Breeders' Cup win. What do you think is the difference between sort of what goes on with the Dubai World Cup versus the Breeders' Cup as to why they're sort of been more successful in one versus the other?
Well, I think the quality of the horses that they have sent in the past to America versus the quality of the horses they're sending over there, partially due to the timing of these races. Mm-hmm. So the races in the spring for older horses are not as, I guess, big as they are in the fall. So I'm battling, Japan Cups and Tenno shows, all like the winner gets $3 million purses kinds of things. While in the spring, the races aren't quite as big for older horses. So for them, going to Dubai is the most lucrative option. And so they send their almond eyes and stuff like that to over there. So I think, but if you look at the past, when they were initially sending Japanese horses over to a lot of these places, they kind of test the water a little bit. They're not going to send the best first. They're going to send the good ones and see how they do, and then after a while, once they see how it works, then hopefully we'll get some doozies later.
Specific question: How great is Jasper Great? This is this Arrogate that won by 18 lengths or something like that.
I think it was like 9 or 10. It wasn't quite that great.
But is this? I mean, what is the buzz in Japan about this horse? It's just I know it was a dirt race, which is secondary in Japan.
Well, it was a very impressive start, and Mori had bought a lot of Arrogates, so he was very, very happy to finally have a winner. They were kind of slow out of the gate all over the world, but no, he was very impressive, and so he's hopeful that he'll actually be able to run on and maybe go to like the Saudi Derby next year and maybe even the Kentucky Derby. So he'd like to go to the Kentucky Derby again with a horse like this.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. In terms of adjustments,
because he was the first Japanese trainer to ever go to the Kentucky Derby.
Yes.
Ski captain, right? Was it?
Yeah.
In terms of sort of training routines and getting horses ready for the races, are there any sort of adjustments that the Japanese horsemen tend to make when they're in the U.S. compared to when they're on their own home turf?
It doesn't seem like it to me. They seem to be training mostly the same. The biggest adjustment that they usually have to make is they're used to doing uphill works in Japan, uphill wood chip course that they have. So basically, they're able to get more out of one training session instead of kind of elongating it. So their warm-ups and their cool downs are probably longer when they're abroad on a flat track than when they're at home, because at home they can like do a little warm up good enough, run up the hill, and then walk home and they're done. But they've got to do maybe cool out a little bit longer, just go a little extra longer because they've got to keep moving to make up for the lack of the hill.
Okay, this is the expansion of the participation by Japan has had an effect also on the business for the Breeders' Cup. How many races will Japanese fans be able to bet on? I know the pools are not mingled; they're separate pools. But how many races will they be able to bet on? Do you know? And what's your prediction as far as they bet massive amounts on their own races and on things like the Arc. What do you think they'll bet on the Breeders' Cup?
Mm-hmm. Well, we are very, very lucky because of the way American racing is structured. The call to and lucky to bet on 3 races this year, even though there's only going to be 2 of the 4 eligible races with Japanese runners. The Classic, the Mile, the Turf, and the Filly and Mare Turf are all categorized by the Japanese government as bettable, but you have to have a Japanese runner. Well, technically, Love's only used pre-entered in 2 of those races, and the cutoff is so late, the government miraculously, they're very conservative, so I was not expecting this. They said, we'll just bet on both of them. So there's going to be one of those races will be bet on without a Japanese horse in it. So it'll be interesting to see what the difference in the handle there. Yeah. The biggest hurdle when it comes to betting for the Japanese is the time zones. So when it comes to like the Middle East is okay. Hong Kong's great. Australia's good. When you start getting over here, the time zones start getting a bit wonky. So it can have an impact. And like if you compare to like some of the Triple Crown races where we've had betting, it's usually about 4 or 5 million. So if we can get over that, I'll be very, very pleased.
Well, Kate, listen, we're gonna wrap it up there. We really appreciate you taking the time. We had a little technical issue with the connection, but you're in the middle of your job, and we appreciate you taking the time. And we'll see you around Del Mar next week. All right. Well, we'll be back with after taking a look at this Woodbine Star of the Week.
Our secret agents hit the front. Gone Early takes the lead at the quarter. On the inside, Toffin from Fiduciary Amalfi Coast. Betwixting to the outside, winding up, but it's our secret agent in front. Out by a length to Amalfi Coast, pegging the leader a little bit, but it's still our secret agent finding plenty. Our secret agent drove 2.5 in front. And interest in the minors, our secret agent has the Hendry Stakes well and truly won. Much the best, our secret agent by 3 lengths Amalfi Coast, ahead away third La Liberté, then Fiduciary, second last Betwixting, and last Toffin, 1:15.68.
Insert your favorite Austin Powers quote here. Our secret agent is our Woodbine Star of the Week after just whooping on the Grade 3 Hendry Stakes on October 23rd. This is the first stakes win for the Secret Circle filly, but not for lack of trying. Her last win was an allowance on August 2020, and she's run 8 consecutive stakes races since then. Besides her win here, that included 4 seconds and a pair of thirds. If you believe in horses being due, I hope our secret agent made you some money.
Well, at 6-5, she won like it. I don't bet 6-5 shots very often, but when I do, I like them to win just like that. There's no doubt about it. And you're right. When you own a filly, getting a graded stakes win into her is huge. And you know, graded stakes placing is a nice thing, but getting that win, I'm sure, did a lot for her value. And we congratulate Mark Cassidy and Gary Barber for yet another stakes winner up at Woodbine. They just dominate up there.
Oh, yeah. And I'm just going to keep saying it because the man deserves respect. Kazushi Kimura is a heck of a rider. Just another winning ride here. Just money up at Woodbine.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Joe, before we say our goodbyes here today?
The usual. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, share, subscribe. It's all appreciated. Help us bring the content to more people and create better content.
All right. Well, listen, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Friday Show. Thanks to Kate Hunter for going the extra mile to talk to us from LAX, where she's waiting for some people to show up, I think. Thanks to Woodbine. Big day of 2-year-old racing on Saturday, and then Sunday's Ontario Derby. We'll see you next week. Breeders' Cup. Talk to you then.